Here comes Sims. Pedaling into the paint, leaning and hitting a 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana. And Minnesota wants a timeout. Caitlin Clark knows it.
After Indiana's third straight victory, Kelsey Mitchell delivered a message in the locker room that had her teammates buzzing with excitement. Caitlin Clark was one of 5 key players the Fever leaned on, but it was Mitchell's words that perfectly captured the team's mindset heading into the playoffs. This wasn't the voice of a group seeing themselves as underdogs. It was the confidence of true contenders determined to reshape the 2025 WNBA story. If you're fired up for the playoffs, drop a message of support for the Fever below. Come on, Indiana. Fire basketball.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good with or without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull-up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
Fever dub with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow! Hell yeah. You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Remember, this was a team that had lost 4 of its last 5 games. At that point, Indiana's playoff chances looked like they were slipping away. Fans began to wonder if the Fever even had enough bodies to compete, let alone steal wins against powerhouses like the Lynx. Doubt started to creep in, and it felt like a season once filled with promise was destined to fizzle out before the finish line.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really, the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. There's a work ethic and there's a work style. And to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
But this team didn't fold. Instead, right in the middle of the season, they fought to redefine themselves. Head coach Stephanie White delivered a simple but powerful message. Focus on where you are. Those words carried more weight than they seemed. They reminded every player to zero in on the moment, to think less about who was missing and more about who was on the floor, what role they could play, and how they could impact each possession.
It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And, these are things that you have to go through. I often say there's no substitute for experience, and the experience that these guys have had to have to continue to reinvent, to have to continue to find different ways to get back up and to play through some different struggles is not just paying us dividends this season, but as far as what it's doing for our culture, it's going to pay dividends for many years to come.
Their clash with Minnesota was the perfect showcase of that new mindset. Indiana stunned the Lynx by storming out to a 10-0 lead, playing with a pace and urgency that left no room to hesitate. Their energy showed up everywhere, on defense where they swarmed passing lanes and on offense where shots began to fall in rhythm. Suddenly, the Fever weren't defined by who was missing. They were dictating the game. Reserves dove for loose balls, veterans ripped down big rebounds, and everyone bought into the idea that their best chance was to outwork the opponent on every possession. It wasn't always pretty, but it was relentless. That's the difference between a team just surviving and one truly winning. And the reward was clear. Not only did Indiana secure its first winning record since 2015, but they also proved their resilience. Injuries didn't define them, their response did. At the center of it all was Kelsey Mitchell, whose remarkable season is rewriting the story of Indiana basketball and lifting the Fever to heights no one saw coming.
I love y'all!
With Caitlin Clark sidelined, the big question was simple. Who would step up and keep the Fever alive? It wasn't just about filling her stat line. It was about finding new sources of energy, leadership, and scoring. That's why the matchup with the Lynx was so eye-opening. It proved that when the stage is brightest, Indiana's depth doesn't just survive, it thrives. Fans had every reason to worry that without Clark and Sophie Cunningham, the offense would sputter. After all, those two provide the shooting presence that spacing depends on. But instead of stalling out, the Fever leaned on their adaptability, and it changed everything.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint, sneaks through 2 and lays it in.
Aaliyah Boston elevated her game far beyond being just a paint anchor. Playing like a guard in a center's frame, she sparked an offensive surge from the post, cleaning up everything in her path while setting a new rebounding mark. Every time she touched the ball on the block, the Lynx defense was forced to adjust, collapsing on her, doubling and scrambling. In turn, Boston created the stage for her teammates, opening lanes for cutters and clean looks for shooters.
Here's Boston off the steal, coast to coast, and in for 2. Here comes Sims. A little hop. As she took it inside the arc. Boston able to finish. Looked like she was getting hugged, but was persistent.
Then came Odyssey Sims, proving she still has plenty left in the tank. Coming off the bench, she dropped 15 points and looked like a player who had been waiting for the perfect moment to remind everyone of her value. After the game, Sims summed it up perfectly. The new season starts Sunday. For her and for the Fever, it felt like the start of something new.
Williams. Turner finds the cutter. Sims using the window on a really nice pass